Apparently, Total War is fighting for its life because that's the title of this video by Bellullar News. Oh, I don't know, dude. I hope not. They need to stop nickel and diming there. Dude, people don't buy strategy games anymore because I literally talked to my boys. I'm like, hey, we should play Total War. But they don't own Total War 1 or Total War 2. So even if they bought 3, they have like 8 factions out of the like 30. They're missing all the factions from Total War 1, all the ones from 2, all the DLC factions. They sell you the same shit. Like, I don't know. They you have to pay so much money to play a strategy game. And it's not just Creative Assembly. It's Paradox doing it as well, with like Stellaris having like 100 DLCs for it. These strategy games cost like $300, $400, $500 a piece once you get down to it. And there's not a whole lot of people that are willing to invest that anymore in video games. So, I don't know. I think the big problem is that they're just too expensive. They need to stop doing it. They need to start just making... This is the thing. You could sell 10 people something for $300. Or you could sell 1,000 people something for $60. You know? That's my point.
Today, we've got to talk about Creative Assembly, and that's because, for the last while, something weird has been going on for the company. The development of their games has been way more open than normal. It's been surprisingly candid. They've taken in significant input from a lot of players like you and me, and that's all because they want their next Total War games to have the best possible chance of making you and I happy.
True. Well, I hope so. I really hope so. But I don't know. Creative Assembly doesn't really have a great track record with this, so... Only time will tell. I hope that they're taking us seriously, but I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. But I will say I'm hyped for the end times, but I hope that when they add the end times in, it's like a separate campaign from Immortal Empires. Like, it's still the size of Immortal Empires, but its own campaign is what I'm hoping for.
Just want. I would say they absolutely need it, because for the company, these stakes are absolutely existential. To accomplish this, what they're doing is, in a way, copying Paradox's homework, which isn't always a good thing, but here it just may be. And that's because the next Total War games are being made on streams and in forums, and that's all because the last decade has left them in a truly do-or-die situation. Fresh off a showcase at the Chinese Bilibili World event, English-speaking audiences pretty much just got their first looks at the upcoming Total War Warhammer 40k,
So with this one, it looks all right, but there's only 5 factions at the start, so you know they're going to sell us all the rest of the factions for DLC, or just wait till the next one, 40k2, to give us more factions. And they have this weird unit system that, personally, other people like it. I don't really like it, where you have to build out every unit, and it's like, all right, well, I got this Space Marine unit, so I'm going to give it... 2 of the guys have a rifle, 1 of the guys has a chainsword, 1 of them has a rocket launcher. I don't know. I prefer to just have like a rocket launcher unit, a swordsman unit, a grenader unit, whatever. You know, that's what I prefer in Total War. But I could be alone on that.
In a proper first look. Now, this happened first in the form of gameplay trailers, and then in...
So, like, what I'm talking about, by the way, is like these guys down here, these little boxes. Each one of these is a unit comprised of like several people, and you would have to go into that unit and equip out each person individually.
An Alpha Strike live stream that was dedicated solely to the ranged combat mechanics, compared to, say, Warhammer Fantasy, or, I don't know, Rome, or even Napoleon, is a little bit different. And to be real with you, the mechanical stuff is really cool. There's strafing movement, there's split fire between different weapons within a unit, and then destructible maps that can make cover, which is something that powers new mechanics like evasive stances. It all looks pretty awesome. Now, of course, I do think destructible maps with cover that can appear, and then I think about Creative Assembly AI for enemy units. Who knows if that will work? But it all does
It's got a good point.
Quite cool, and that's because, in great part, this is an entirely new combat model for a Total War game. To actually pull that off, they're probably needing to implement new tech and actually change things on a more fundamental level. And if you know the technical history of these games, working those fundamentals, absolutely.
So, me and my buddy, we play Total War Warhammer 3, And we've been playing Total War since Warhammer 2, or like together since Warhammer 2, playing campaigns together. We even went back and did some Shogun too, that was awesome. But we played Total War Warhammer 3 for years since it came out, and then for 1 year straight, it just we could never continue a campaign. Like if one of us tried to load into the other's campaign, that like it was a multiplayer campaign, we started together, we played for a few hours, and then it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go to bed. And then we get back on the next day, try to load into it. The person loading in crashed every time for a year straight. They just fixed that like a month ago, so we're finally able to play together again. It's crazy.
We needed. You can really tell they're spooked about setting false expectations. Of course.
Yeah, the Total War technical difficulties are vast sometimes.
My mind goes back to Rome 2, which, yeah, had a lot of false expectations. So they basically said that this stuff was, to quote them, not smoke and mirrors, that's not all dressed up. And it makes things we saw make sense, like bits of UI seeming off, or times where a mechanic was systemically, like literally implemented, but didn't really have visuals or...
I didn't think about this, so that's actually really cool. Now that I think about it, with these individualized units, that also means that each one is an actual person. So it's not like when they're shooting at your unit, it's just like, oh, their health bar is going down, so it visualizes it by showing you people die. No, there's actual people who are fighting and dying. That's a cool... I like that. That adds a lot to the simulation.
Maybe just wasn't polished looking. So they were very clear to point out, basically, that things were very work in progress, and this was an older build of the game. And it wasn't just this wave of PR doing that. This is the latest in a series of these streams and showcases that are all very in progress looking. I mean, Total War 40k is even getting its own closed beta, which will likely drop around Gamescom ahead of a full theorized release next year. So basically, players are seeing things early. We're being asked to actually shape the things that we see. That's absolutely abnormal for Creative Assembly, but what's even more abnormal is what's going on with the game that many of us diehards are really the most excited about. Medieval 3. When Creative Assembly revealed Medieval 3, they said it was in early pre-production, and that they wanted to, and I quote, take you on our development journey with us where we can.
They have to be so careful with this one, because it has to be the most in-depth. It's got to have the princes and princesses. It's got to have the debt collectors. It's got to have all that extra shit in it. And if it doesn't have that, it's gonna suck. Everybody's gonna say it sucks.
The way in which that could all seem a little bit woolly and idealistic, and truth be told, you would have every right to be skeptical about that. The announcement almost felt like a bit of a consolation prize, as if they knew people would be hype about Warhammer 40k, but that us historical fans are very hungry by this stage.
Yeah.
We've been underserved for years and years, so a lot of it kind of felt like platitudes that were really just hiding whatever they were actually doing, which was probably just getting ready to ship the 40k game.
Well, and all of us Warhammer fans, not all of us, but a lot of us, at least the fantasy Warhammer fans, cross over into historical fans as well. I mean, dog, if you're not sitting around in the middle of the night at least once a week thinking about ancient Rome, are you even a man?
Pretty much all felt worthy of skepticism. But then, they actually did start doing things. They started showing progress on streams with temporary assets and complete like prototypes for mechanics like, say, ladders and sieges, the sort of thing that we just about never see for a Total War game. And they really did seem to be in the early stages. And perhaps the clearest sign of all is that they asked players to help decide Medieval 3's starting factions, which is certainly not normal, because what we're used to is being asked to...
Top 4, if they're only... Oh, man, they're gonna do it again. Oh, my God, why do they always do this? Why do they always do this? This is why your game's dying, you guys. This is why Dude, literally, when I was playing this game last night with my boys, they both said they're not gonna buy 40k until, like, a year after it comes out, because they know it's only gonna have a few factions, and they're just gonna wait for the DLCs to come out. Because it's not worth playing with only, like, 4 or 5 factions. That takes away the fun. When you play Total War Warhammer 3, there's like 30 factions, but like the minor factions, when you start a game, there's like 300. We're going to have 5. Sure, they'll be split up, and they'll probably be like 75 of the same 5. Oh, whoopee, dude. I'm the same way as my friends there. It's like, I mean, I'm gonna probably just fucking get the game because that's just who I am. But I totally get. I don't know, guys. I love Total War to that point. I'm gonna wait to see if it's good, but I don't know. I'll probably buy 40K, but I don't want to. We'll see. I don't want to support the model. I mean, so maybe I won't. We'll see. We'll see if it's good or not. If it comes out and it's really good, me and my buddies will all buy it. We will. We'll eat our own words. But if it comes out and it's just the 5 factions that are in it and there's nothing really going on and I don't know. My buddies they're like, yeah, Chaos hasn't even been revealed to be in it. Like, there's all this stuff that's missing from it. And then with Medieval, they're like, yeah, there's only going to be 4. That's what they say. Pick your 4 favorite factions to put in the game. What do you mean, 4? Out of all of history, you could only think of 4. You can only fit 4 factions into the world to start with. How small is the world going to be to start with? How many DLCs are you going to make us pay for before the game is full? This is why people don't want to pay for strategy games.
Pay for things that should already be starting factions. Now, 6 of the factions are already locked in. There's Byzantine, Jerusalem, England, France, the Anatolian Turks, and the Holy Roman Empire.
Okay, never mind. We've got 6.
Oh, glorious fun. Sounds
okay.
to me. But right now, the community's actually voting on what they want the other ones to be. And
Whoa, okay. All right, sorry. I spoke too soon. I was speaking about Warhammer 40K, I guess, because we've been told there's going to be 5 starting factions, which is bullshit, and I hate. There better be more. If they try to sell us 1 million factions, we're not going to buy it until the factions are out, probably. But this is cool. There's actually going to be a lot of starting factions for Medieval. Never mind. I ate my words right now. That's sick.
A list of 23 factions. And even the blog post running the vote has kind of got the same tone, that they're completely open, that there are just some factions that off the bat they won't really be able to make work. One of those being the Papal States. Of course, that's probably going to be a faction that would play pretty damn different if it was actually in the game.
Yeah, it's going to be DLC. That's what they're saying. This playstyle would be so unique and special that it would reduce focus and development too much. AKA, we're going to make it DLC.
And what's also kind of new is the explanation. They're pretty upfront that production reasons might, say, override parts of the fan vote if something goes wrong. So they're clearly saying, like, we want your input, but it seems they're not trying to cash a check that they're not going to be able to pay. And for this game, the thing is, this one instance I'm talking about here was not their first request for fan feedback. Their spring recap lists 10 separate forum threads, plus a whole bunch of live streams where they showed the community their ideas and basically asked people what they thought. And you know what? It does feel like they genuinely want their audience to be involved.
I do. I like that. I like that a lot. Maybe they're turning a new leaf, you know? I think that there's a lot of video game developers that are realizing that you can't just fuck your audience forever and then expect them to keep handing you money. I think they're finally turning around, which is a cool thing.
Or, if you're to be less charitable, it's maybe they really need their audience to be involved because they know that they've basically ran all trust into the ground. But it does seem at least that even if they can't deliver everything that people ask for, they're at least going to show their working out and explain why, which is extremely uncreative assembly. But you know what it is? It is very modern Paradox Interactive. They too are a company that really shat the bed and really knows it, well, yeah, needs to unshit the bed.
You know why Paradox games I will play now? One simple reason. Well, I guess it's a multi-tiered reason. So they have 1 million DLCs for their game, right? It costs like hundreds, probably $700 to get all the DLCs if you wanted to buy them all. It's crazy. You do have the option to buy them. They do go on sale. So that's cool. But also, the cool thing about it is that you could just pay like $5 a month for a sub. And then to get all the DLCs for the game, whichever game you want to sub to, play it for a month or 2. It's like renting the subscription. It's like renting the DLCs. I know this is like some post-capitalism shit. It's crazy. But hey, it's better than paying $700 for the DLCs or just not having the shit. But the other cool thing that ties in with that is if you're playing multiplayer with somebody and they have the DLCs, whether it's through the subscription or through buying them all, then you can play with all the DLCs as somebody who doesn't have them, which is really sick.
For 2 whole years, Paradox did not tell the market that they were actually building Europa Universalis 5. But of course, players knew. And players knew because the most engaged among them were following a little thing that was called Project Caesar. It had a prototype blog called Tinto Talks, which basically ran through every facet of the game, gathering feedback directly in the forums, and that kind of happened all the way up to release. And then, shockingly for a game like this, whenever it came out, it was positively received, it was stable, and people thought it was pretty well featured.
That's crazy.
Which is kind of crazy for a game like that.
That's
and
crazy.
Probably the complete opposite of, say, the new Civilization game. That being said, that was just the launch. Long term, there are issues with that game. But back to this story. In the very first...
Hey, I like Crusader Kings 3, though. I've been having a real blast with Crusader Kings 3 every time I play it. I don't have the DLCs for it right now, but it is... That's a really good Paradox game. Stellaris, I'm pretty sure that's Paradox. That's another one. Really, really good. See, those games are fun, I guess. But what's really good is once you get the mods for it, like the Star Trek mod for Stellaris or the Lord of the Rings mod for Crusader Kings, this is when it gets really fun.
First of those
Game
talks
of Thrones
blogs,
mod.
Johan Anderson
Sick,
explained
too.
their thinking. Basically, that talking to players is valuable because of the feedback, but only to a point. Here's what he basically said in a straight quote. If it's so late in the development process that you can't adapt to the feedback, then a development diary is just a marketing tool. And let's be real, how many times have we all felt that? Or even, say, seen something that is labeled as like an alpha or a beta, where it does quite clearly look like mostly a marketing exercise. But to his credit, Johan did point out Paradox's own rather uncomfortable record. He thinks that games like Imperator Rome, or, as it was announced in one of those E3 things, Imperator Rome, that was a little funny, anyway, that it might have looked different if they'd involved the community earlier and actually listened to people's feedback, obviously. Look at the state of that game when it launched. But you can basically see the follow-through here. Nobody expects to see Medieval 3 anytime soon. And what that means is that the open discussions, the prototypes that are being streamed, the requests for fan votes, actually feel meaningful and credible because it doesn't feel like there's any universe where they're going to ask us money for this game in, like, the next 1 or 2 years.
I like that. I like that they're taking their time with it. I'd always rather... I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Masahiro Sakurai. I'm not really sure who it was, but it was a developer at Nintendo who said you can only release a game one time, which is not necessarily true anymore, but it is true in the hearts and minds of a lot of people. Very few games can come back from it. No Man's Sky did a full turnaround. They're one of the few, but even then, there are still people who don't know and won't play because they're not, the casual gamers. They're just like, No Man's Sky, I heard it sucks, that's just all it is. Or they played it and when it came out, I didn't like it, That's all it is. So you can only release a game once. Don't release a bad game. Because, look at Quidditch Champions. Look at Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. That game released. When me and my boys played it, we played the beta. We fucking loved it. We played the hell out of it, dude. We played it every day. We got to the very end of the, rewards tree, which was super hard to get during the beta. And we were so hyped for it. It was a 6-player, get the, full Quidditch match. It was sick. And then it came out. And they took it down to 3 players, where 3 of the players controlled 2 characters at a time in the versus modes. And it just absolutely sucked all of the fun out of it, and nobody plays it. And also, though, they put, it was for sure built to where it should have been a free-to-play game, like a Rocket League. It should have just been Rocket League, but with Harry Potter. But they got greedy and wanted to charge money for it. Or they saw multiverses, and they flopped with that and thought it would be the same, but didn't realize that a sports game based on Quidditch, if it was actually competitive focused like it was in the beta, would be much more profitable than a Smash Bros. Clone that's not as good as Smash Bros.
Which of course means it actually feels like what we see reflects.
But also, you can come out with new clothes every couple of weeks. New clothes, new stuff like that. For multiverses, you have to take forever to make a new character to be able to sell anything. To make a new skin for it that people don't even really care about skins for those characters. To be for real. Most people just are like, oh yeah, there's Bugs Bunny. I'm going to play as Bugs Bunny, So to come out with new characters and all this new stuff and new stages and all that, that takes time. That takes a lot more time than it does to just change the background on a stage or add in a new skin to a clothing item, which people will buy because it's a custom character that you make in Quidditch. Quidditch was the biggest mistake, was making it paid and making it 3v3 instead of 6v6, which they did eventually change back, but it's too late.
Real state of development in this game. But of course, that's good for Medieval 3. But as for Total War 40k, well, it doesn't really have that luxury, likely due to, say, contractual terms around licensing and the conflict that could all introduce. But even that game, which is likely still half a year away at least, is openly showing off in-progress builds and calling them what they are, unfinished and unpolished. And that means that expectations are being set. And that is the longest way away from how Creative Assembly used to do things. And I would know because, man, the way they used to do things made me feel pretty shitty and pretty damn stupid. And the crazy thing is we've actually
based Bellullar
got the words of the man who is the literal face and voice of my disappointment, and that is Julian McKinley. So, in 2024, McKinley published a blog post about his time at Creative Assembly. Now, this blog post was 10 years after the events that ultimately drove him away from the company.
Word.
And that's because Julian became infamous amongst us Total War fans for a Rally Point stream, which was just before the release of Rome 2. People believed that he had misrepresented the game's battle AI, presenting it as being way better than it would actually be in release. And man, on release, it blew. And what Julian revealed in his blog post is that he had no power over anything that went wrong there. And he described a Creative Assembly led by managers who basically made decisions against the judgment of their own programmers with no resources or time to actually make those decisions.
Justified. We're all justified in what we thought was happening. Okay, all right. So we've all noticed this change since 2024, right? I mean, the game has been still unstable as fuck because, like I said, until a month ago, we weren't able to continue multiplayer games, but they've been putting in tons of work, reworking the factions, making each of the factions that they've already come out with to be more fun. I do have some hope here. And the more news I hear, the more hopeful I am that Creative Assembly is actually turning a new leaf and working harder. Time will only tell, but we'll see.
Work. It was kind of insane. It was a company where the community and the leadership both made Julian the scapegoat of the whole thing. But that's not all Julian says. What's most important for today's story is he paints a picture of a Creative Assembly where marketing teams are the people determining production schedules so that they can have polished vertical slices to show off in trailers and demos. Which really didn't work out well that time. And for the following 10 years, Creative Assembly would pretty much just plow itself into the goddamn dirt. The tone today, though, could not be more different than any of that. We've got months-old builds of the game being put on stream that have got obvious placeholder assets and obviously in development features that are not polished and are not marketing ready per what we'd be used to. Now, obviously, there is a caveat to all of this. It's all marketing. It is good marketing, and it seemingly is earnest marketing that wants to be in a conversation with the players.
Dude, you know what customers are sick of? Being lied to. That's really what it all is. Just tell us the truth of the product from the get-go, like for real.
Probably do genuinely want that as people, but we also have to remember the context. This is still Creative Assembly constructing an image of the game that may not be in line with the reality of the game that we get. Now that
you love getting lied to. It's a kink of yours. Oh, well, you know, development choices.
It could be through Sega putting demands onto the studio, or it could just be them disagreeing with some feedback. And I think it does show that Creative Assembly understands just how much good faith they need to win back from players for their next games, because their audience has very much been trained not really to trust them or to even like them. There's another ramification of looking at what they do rather than what they say, and it's quite simply this. The longest that we have ever gone between Total War games is a 2-year gap, and for the longest time, they were pumping those suckers out yearly, regardless of the damage it did to the brand. Now, if Total War 40k launches next year, as is expected for 40k's 40th anniversary, then it will have been 4 years since we had a new game from them, which of course is no accident. Creative Assembly, post-layoffs, has been quite clear that their existing games will basically just have to be enough for now.
Dude, I am so happy that more video game developers are getting fired. I'm so happy. For real. And I'm not even kidding. I think that we need to fire any video game developer who's not doing their job. In fact, I'll go one further. If you work anywhere and you're not doing your job, or you're doing your job like shit, you should just be fired. Nobody deserves a job. You don't deserve to be able to work. You don't deserve that. No. I'm so sick of it, dude. There's so many people who don't deserve a job, who aren't doing their job in the games industry specifically, who still have their job, and it's not happening anymore, thank God. That the one good thing I could say about like most of the what's happening with the game developers these days is that they're getting fired and the good ones are staying, you know? And it turns out that at Blizzard, I don't know if anybody's heard about this yet, at Blizzard, it was all a lie, apparently. Not all of it, but most of it, all that Jason Schreier stuff that he said, like they were stealing breast milk and they were, and there was a Cosby suite. All of that was a lie. The Cosby suite, do you know what it was referring to? It was referring to the fact that there was a multicolored carpet on the ground in one of the hotel rooms they were staying at. And you know how you know it had nothing to do with the Bill Cosby stuff? Is because it was an email chain that they had from years before Cosby ever got accused of anything. So there's no way they could have even been referring to it. Because this was just some video game nerds who were like, hey, look, it looks like Bill Cosby's sweater. Like, this is the kind of dishonesty we got. You know, and then we lost all these based badass video game developers, and they got replaced by HR departments and people who don't work.
That of course means Total War, Warhammer 3's DLCs, patches, and free updates, and the paid content for that game is taking longer than ever to make. But what's much cooler to me is their Pantheon program, which is effectively an olive branch to the significant audience of, well, older players, historical game fans. It's not huge, but what they've done is they've basically put a single dev in charge of patching games and updating games, like, say, Rome 2. And that's pretty much all we're getting whilst their teams are working on Alien Isolation 2, 40k, and Medieval 3. Seemingly, though, they're able to work in those games with far less time pressure than they used to have.
I'm really hyped for Alien Isolation 2 as well. That's going to be sick. And for them to not have time pressure, for them to have a smaller team, this is another thing about a smaller team. I always say when a video game team gets over 100 people for a video game, it's going to be worse. You need to have less than 100 people on your video game development team. Too many cooks in the kitchen is a saying for a reason. There, you hit a point where you have too many people working on something and you can no longer create a cohesive vision. You don't need to have tons and tons of people working on a game. You're actually slowing it down, not speeding it up. And you're actually actively making the product worse in the end because multiple people are trying to put their vision, too many people are trying to put their vision into one thing.
Which is undoubtedly a good thing. But there is still pressure. They'll take a revenue hit for not putting out as much stuff for people to buy. And that, I think, basically means if Warhammer 40k and Medieval 3 were to underperform perhaps Alien Isolation 2 as well, you could see Sega just pulling the plug. So there absolutely is pressure then. And that pressure is probably why we're getting, say, console ports for 40k, and why they're doing marketing at events like Billy World.
Oh, that's going to go to console? Ooh, that's going to be huge for the game.
That's a Chinese event, and of course...
Ah, fuck, that might actually make the game worse, though. Hopefully they don't ruin the way it plays on PC.
That's happening because Creative Assembly really wants to sell more wide. Because Sega really wants their money. And if they don't get that money, they will do cuts. You have to remember that since the last Total War game launched, Sega have released half of their European strategy game studios.
Good.
With the likes of Relic and Amplitude among them. The most recent financials from Sega show that they're killing off the likes of their Super Game project, which is good because it really did seem stupid. And they're even planning for a reduced live service spend, especially in mobile.
Hell yeah.
Of course, all as they suffered from pandemic-era bets, like buying Rovio and some gambling sites that, of course, like most pandemic bets, didn't pay off. And whilst those bets didn't pay off, they also had brand new game sales not meeting expectations.
Well, and this is the thing, dude. If you're not doing your job, like I said, you don't deserve a job. So if you're not selling games, you're not a game developer.
We even know from leaked documents that Warhammer 3 did not sell 1 million copies within a year, which
Damn.
is quite bad and a long way away from Total War Warhammer selling 500,000 copies in 1 week and
Well, and you know why? It's because Total War Warhammer came out with all the stuff in the game. But Total War Warhammer 3, you have to buy 1 and 2 before you can even play 3 in any real way.
Three Kingdoms selling 1 million in a week. That really does paint a picture of just how far Creative Assembly fell. The framing from all that at the time was that they needed a turnaround of the Total War brand.
Yeah.
What we see so far, at least, is Creative Assembly are talking to fans, they're asking for feedback, they're open about how early and rudimentary some of the game systems are. As far as marketing goes, it could not be more different from their prior norm, which is good. But that is also because their prior norm would literally kill them, so it's not really like they have a choice. They need people back on their side. And if the old decision-making of that studio was still active and say they were shipping these games maybe, I don't know, Warhammer next month, Medieval 3 next year, well, they would be bringing along every single bit of baggage from the last decades of Total War releases, including what turned the sales of Warhammer 3 away from the amazing sales of Warhammer 1. So instead, they are using their marketing tools as a form of development. We do not know to what extent. We cannot know yet, but the plan for you is fairly simple. If they can convince you that they're listening and that they're considering what you want, even if they don't deliver on everything, they can convince you that they do care, and maybe that'll be enough for you to buy their next game, because you'll have been invested in the story of that game for years and years. That's the plan.
Like I said with a lot of my friends, I said this earlier, but my friends that do play Total War, there are a good amount of them that just won't play Warhammer 3 because then they'd have to buy 1 and 2. The ones that do play it, though, say they're not going to buy 40K until they at least get one or two live streams that they can watch and reviewers that they trust to make sure the game's actually good. And then on top of that, they're probably still going to wait until more factions are released because they don't think it's going to release with all the stuff in the game. They think it's going to release bare bones, which I don't blame them, and I kind of agree. But we'll see. It does look like to me the Creative Assembly could be turning a new leaf. The tables might be turning, you know. That was a good video. Bellullar's a really good news reporter. I like him. He doesn't really take his personal bias into it too much, but he does sprinkle it in there, which I actually like, you know. Everybody wants an unbiased opinion, and that's the dumbest thing you can ask for. Nobody's unbiased. Everybody has their bias. Everybody has their bias. You just gotta be able to see the different biases, you know?